Today, we're going to talk about everyone's least favorite subject in 2025, at least from the perspective of small business owners, and that's tariffs. Now, have you ever wondered why so many products in America still come from China, even after years of tariffs, trade wars, and rising costs? Why do business owners say that they want to buy American, yet they still end up sourcing their products from overseas? And is it really true that the US doesn't manufacture anything anymore? Today, we're going to get down to the truth about global manufacturing, and you'll discover where you can actually find reliable US suppliers right now. Let's get into the video. Okay, first, let's be honest about one thing. China is still the undisputed leader in global manufacturing. This is not because of politics or propaganda, but it's because of their infrastructure, their labor scale, and their experience in manufacturing. Now, for well over 2 decades, since China joined the WTO in 2001, they have been the go-to place for everything from toys and textiles to electronics and, and machinery. Why is that? Think about what China has for a little bit. They have massive industrial zones that are dedicated to manufacturing in specific segments. They have very streamlined and advanced port systems. They have a massive workforce that is trained in precision, repetition, and speed. They have suppliers that are stacked in vertical ecosystems that make it cheaper and faster to produce everything under one roof. China doesn't just build factories. They build entire ecosystems around export logistics, customs, component integration, and mass production of goods. That's why China, for many years, has just become the default source. Not because US manufacturers disappeared, but because businesses got addicted to cheap, fast, and easy. Now, you could say that in a way, China's rise has really revealed the complacency of US businesses. Rather than investing in infrastructure and factories, many businesses opted for short term profits instead and returned that cash back to shareholders. Now, in 2025, the game has changed a bit. How so? Well, of course, tariffs. See, when the US started imposing steep tariffs on Chinese goods, everything from machinery to steel to electronics, the cost equation started to shift. What used to be the cheapest option suddenly and continually is getting more and more expensive. And even more importantly, tariffs make trade unpredictable. Well, how so? Well, tariffs and trade wars, they add in long shipping times. There are supply chain delays. Let's not forget the impact of COVID era disruptions. There are rising wages in China. China's middle class is steadily growing. And of course, as you know, there is ongoing geopolitical tension between the US, China, and other countries. So at this point, we have a very different picture than we did 10 years ago in the global manufacturing space. Now, the cost benefit analysis of overseas sourcing is not as simple as it was a decade ago. In fact, many businesses are now realizing that maybe saving a few dollars per unit isn't worth it when you factor in months of delay, poor communication, and the risk of border policy changes overnight. Okay, now let's tackle a myth that really needs to die. America does not make anything anymore. Now, that's just flat out false. The US is still the second largest manufacturer in the world behind China. We build aircraft, medical devices, automobiles, packaging, robotics, CNC parts. The list goes on and on and on. In fact, there are thousands of US factories that still operate every day. Many of them are family owned, highly specialized, and laser focused on quality. So the question is, why don't people know about them? Well, because they're harder to find. They're not putting ads on Alibaba. They don't have flashy websites all the time. They're not chasing overseas volume. They're focused on long term B2B partnerships and dependable relationships with retailers that they can trust. So, this is where a lot of US business owners get stuck. You want to support American manufacturing, but you don't know where to look. Maybe you've heard of Alibaba, maybe you've even heard of IndiaMart. But what about Thomasnet? That's right. Thomasnet, which was formerly the Thomas Register, is one of the oldest and most respected and trusted directories of verified US manufacturers, not just resellers or brokers. In fact, when you go to Thomasnet, you can filter by location, you can look at certifications, you can look at product types, you can look at custom capabilities, and you can even search by minority owned and veteran owned status for manufacturers. So, whether you're looking for injection molding in Ohio or maybe stainless steel fabrication in Texas, Thomasnet is where serious buyers start looking for US manufacturers. And best of all, these aren't factories pretending to be factories, they're real US suppliers ready to work. Now, the ugly truth is, and we don't want to skirt this, but you might pay a little bit more per unit. But with that trade off, you're going to gain some things. Here's what you're going to gain. Number one, you're going to gain speed because there's no 60-day ocean freight that you have to wait for. You're going to gain transparency because you can actually visit the factory. It's within traveling distance in the United States. You also get a level of flexibility. Now, you can adjust orders faster, you can pivot directions, and usually manufacturers that are closer to you, they're going to be more receptive to changing priorities in your business. And finally, you're going to gain trust. Now, there are U.S. legal protections for buyers of goods. For example, the UCC, otherwise known as the Uniform Commercial Code, and other legal protections and shared standards that are common to U.S. manufacturers that you will naturally benefit from by going with U.S. Manufacturers. And let's not forget that in a world where buyers care about origin, where people actually are starting to look at labels, where things come from, as well as the carbon footprint and ethical sourcing, buying in the USA actually can be profitable when you look at your total landed cost of goods sold. Now, if you're interested in more of a deep dive into how global trade is shifting and where smart businesses are going to look for protection, I do have another book out. It's called Tariffs, Tantrums, and Trade Wars. Now, this book is packed with insights on how to source your products smarter, where to find US suppliers, as well as some emerging market vendors, how to future proof your supply chain, and how to turn trade disruption into a strategic advantage that your competitors won't even see coming. You can grab your copy on Amazon today. The link will also be in the description in this video. Keep something in mind. When the next trade disruption hits, you'll either be ready or you'll be stuck waiting for a container that may never arrive. Which position do you want to be in? Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.